we said that we were going to talk about the Phantom Menace when we had our last episode, but something else has dropped since we recorded our last thing. And let's skip a bit and wait for the Phantom Menace so we can talk about some more current Star Wars things that are going on now.
You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
Rolling. Roll. Don't use any of this. Don't.
Okay, carry 3.
They love you. You know.
This is Princess Leia Organa. You're listening to Planet Leia.
Permission is granted to land on Planet Leia. Brought to you by Fantha Tracks. Here are your hosts, Clair Henry and Johanna Nybelius.
The Acolyte has got mixed reviews, really, by lots of different people, old and new fans, which I find quite interesting, that new fans are hemming and hawing about it as well.
Yes, I mean, we heard some about it at the last celebration. People haven't really known what to expect from it. I'm still not sure what I think of it. It's definitely an interesting take on Star Wars, and it's a new era where definitely a lot of people have just seen the films and maybe some of the TV shows are not familiar with the era. So I think that's part of like experience something new, and people don't really know where they are standing in regards to it, I think.
It's an interesting one. So I thought at the start it was going to be some sort of murder mystery detective series. That's kind of the impression I got. Is that what you got from it?
Yes, and that it was going to be more a lot of time jumps. And I was a bit wary about it because I don't like time jumps. But now the time jumps that we've seen is more, I mean, we do get a lot of flashbacks. We've had like 2 full flashback episodes, and I thought it was going to be more jumping. And I actually haven't enjoyed the flashback episodes. Some of them are some of my most favorite episodes. I was thinking it was going to be a more time jumpy, not just a regular series with flashbacks to explain what's going on.
When I first watched it and we had that fight scene at the start, and I thought, you've actually managed to kill off yet again one of your famous actresses in the first 10 minutes of something, just like they did with Solo. And I was really gutted. They've got this fantastic actress bumped off pretty quickly, but actually the whole flashbacks and her coming back into it has been really good.
Yeah. And of course, since this is a new era, the Jedi are not in a really good light. They are very human. I would not like cast them as villains or something, but it's clear that they are flawed. And this is, of course, a problem because, I mean, you want a Jedi to always be good and always be righteous. And it's quite obvious that they are not. They have made mistakes. They are hiding some of the mistakes as well.
And I think that's the whole key to this series, is that their mistakes are about to come and haunt them and bite them back about it. I'm going to make a point that a lot of people have talked to me about, and there's a lot of skills that the Jedi have in this that they don't necessarily have in any of the prequels, any of the other, any of the trilogies, actually, to be fair. You know, and I would have thought we would have seen it even in the Clone Wars or, you know, in Rebels or some of that sort of stuff. But the whole fighting style and technique is completely different. Is it 100 years, 200 years before?
It's like a bit more than 100 years, I think. It's not so long. And I definitely have a feeling that this is the Acolyte that's starting to set in motion what brings the Jedi Order down, in that they will now start. I mean, you do have some references that they need to talk with senators who want to control the Jedi. This is the thing that will get them more and more embroiled in galactic politics and will get them detached from what they should be doing.
Yeah, and whereas in this series, they seem to be, well, as we thought, and many of the things in the expanded universe and stuff, sort of like the Guardians, sounds cliche,
Yeah.
the Guardians of the Galaxy, really, aren't they?
But with not the best music taste.
Without any good music, to be fair. And I find it fascinating, the whole, I think we touched on this in one of our episodes where we talked about the development and transformation and the maturity of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And you can see that this is clearly in their infancy. They haven't really got them. Well, they do have themselves together, but there seems to be factions going off, doing bits and pieces, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So it's quite an interesting take on it for me.
And I totally agree. And I'm also thinking that, like, as I said, we are recording it before the last episode. I can't see how they will tie everything together in one episode. This is one of the series where I really hope that there will be another season, because they're not gonna get everything tied up. There are too many loose threads going on. So I really hope that Disney don't shelve this one. I mean, you don't trust anything Disney's doing until it really hits Disney Plus. But I really want a second season of this to get everything resolved.
I was thinking of you and your love of groups of women gathering from a costume point of view again. I mean, let's talk about that for a bit. I was just thinking, at the minute I saw them, I just thought, oh my God, Johanna's going to be cosplaying one of these lot again pretty soon.
Yeah, well, it's the hair again. No, I mean, the Force Witches, and that is definitely one of my favorite parts of the series are the Force Witches, that we get to see a totally different Force tradition that is in some kind of, well, I wouldn't say force, but they exist, they do their thing, and you don't really know if they're good and evil. They are no Night Sisters. They're not totally dark, but they definitely are on a different spectrum of understanding the Force. This is where I feel like you have a lot of both the mothers, where you have one mother who seems to be like the very grounded. I mean, she's the leader, she's the grounded one. She was the one who was prepared to first be a mother and let Osha go if she wanted to. And then you have the other mother who's really fierce and protective. And that is really the most interesting dynamic, I think, in the whole series. And yes, to have another Force tradition showing that the understanding of the Force is bigger than just the Jedi and Sith. And that gives a really interesting take on the whole galaxy. The Jedi are not the only one who have discovered the Force and what they could do with it.
But they seem to have done it in a different way.
Yeah.
And the two parents. So again, it comes back to, there was a couple of things in one of the earlier episodes. The parents of the twins are an interesting dynamic. It is definitely the Victorian parent is what we would call them. The ones from the Victorian era of history in the UK, where children should do this, children should do that, they should follow this and they should follow that. And you stick to my rules and that's it. And then you have the modern parent, which is let them choose their own path, let them try to do what they want to do themselves, that sort of stuff. You've got this quite interesting dynamic, which you could relate to any family at any point in, now or anything about it. So that quite I like them. And then there was the bit when the Jedi found the girls in the forest, saw them being taken away by their mum. And then there was the talk between the two mums. If this has been already disclosed, I don't know it yet because I'm an episode or so behind. But where he says the Jedi will find out how these children were created. So have we found out how these children were created yet?
No, not really, I would say. That is one thing where it's obvious that there is something is going on. It's not like a mother and a father and going out in the woods having some nice time together. So there is something going on with them, absolutely. Which is also why they are one soul in two bodies. They are not two separate souls. They are one soul.
And that's the other interesting thing about it. So there are the connotations to Anakin Skywalker, and how he was created. So is this the whole start of the midichlorian count? And
we don't know if one of the sisters will become a Sith. But if one of these magic sisters who are created somehow, are they, or the knowledge about sisters being created through the Force, is that what sets the Sith on the path of trying to create the chosen one? Because they
Correct.
know it's possible, which is once again why this Force tradition that these witches have is so interesting, because it's a different take. I think they can do stuff that the Sith or Jedi can't do, or they haven't explored that part of the Force.
And then there's sort of hints about it because, okay, I'm going to call him, again, I've been talking to a couple of friends about this. I'm going to call him Smilo Ren.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Milo Ren.
Clearly has some leads to the Sith. They're calling the twin the Acolyte. But I think he's got a master. I think he's
Yes.
a Padawan.
I don't think he's the master. I agree
No.
there. I think he's the apprentice, and now he's trying to find an acolyte so that he can kill his master, become the new master, and have a new apprentice.
Again, this has got connotations to the Phantom Menace or the prequels where we've got Dooku. And I did read something really very wacky. And again, you might know this better than me because you've read the expanded universe better than me.
Yeah, but the old expanded universe, not
No, I'm talking about the old expanded universe. The old Darth Plagueis.
Yeah, and this is not Plagueis, because Plagueis should be a moon.
So come on, expand on that one for me, please.
It's the Palpatine novel that came out. Darth Plagueis was a moon, not a human. Yeah,
I've missed that bit.
Which I think was, and he was the one who was scheming and trying to create life through the Force and everything, and then got Palpatine as his apprentice. So possibly this could be maybe Tenebrious, and they are also aliens. So it's not a direct line. There are some jumps in between before we get to the Plagueis Sith.
I honestly think that somewhere in amongst all this, one of those guys is going to turn out to be the Sith Lord that's in it. And Smilo Ren is going to be his Padawan.
Hi, this is Danielle from the Acolyte, and you're listening to Fanta Tracks.
I just think that he is too lowly,
He doesn't have a plan. I feel like he's in it for his personal part. And in a way, he reminds me a bit about Asajj Ventress, who's like, claims that she's a Sith. At least, I mean, when she showed up in the first animated Clone Wars series, when she shows up and claims she's a Sith, and Dooku like, no, you're not a Sith, but let's see what you can do. So I'm not sure that he's proper Sith, or as I said, he might, because he's in it for himself. If they want to keep going with Jedi Sith, that the Jedi are a bit more conflicted than we thought, and the Sith are as well. If he's in it just because, hey, they want to kill me because they don't want my tradition of the Force to be there. Yeah, but he doesn't seem like the guy who is set to take over the galaxy.
Definitely not. He doesn't seem to me to have the presence. But so potentially, well, obviously, if it's not Darth Bane, he must be too before then.
He's before that, yeah.
He's way too before then, but never say never is what I'm going to say.
And of course, it would be interesting if one of the twins ends up being a Sith, that we get a female Sith master, that she can then train one of the more known Siths.
Now, there's an interesting one.
Because we haven't seen any female Sith proper. And in the old expanded universe, Darth Bane's apprentice, it was Darth Sana, who was female. But we haven't really had a fully fledged female Sith Lord. I mean, I think we should have one.
Yeah.
It's not just say that the women are more evil Force-dealing women are witches, either of Dathomir, or if these women in this coven, an Acolyte. It would be interesting to see if we get a female Sith Lord. You know, in folklore, you have a lot of forces and spirits that they are neither good nor evil. They are just like nature itself. And I feel like this is where we're going with these Force witches. We don't know their motivations at all, really.
Yeah.
And what they are doing. And we still don't know that. And it's apparent, I mean, from the two mothers, there are definitely different views on what they should be doing. For me, they are like the face or that in that you usually think that they are good or evil, but you don't know because they are unpredictable, because you don't understand their motivations.
Yeah.
And that's definitely the feeling I get for these Force witches. We don't understand them. And in a way, in that way, we are more like the Jedi who come there and they see some kind of Force sect that is doing something that they don't understand and they don't know what's going on. And of course, that's scary.
Osha and May, the twins, what do you think of them?
That has been the most interesting the two most interesting, and which is good because they are the main characters. And to me, it's quite obvious that really the one who should have been taken care of by the Jedi should have been May, and Osha is the darker twin.
Yeah.
So just because May, she has a stronger inner compass than Osha has. A bit like, going for emotions or thinking it over. So it's, of course, interesting that one has been raised by the Jedi and one has been raised, or at least in some time has come under the influence of the Sith. But I mean, it was pretty obvious with May, she's not a Darksider. She can kill Jedi, she can do it, but then she turns around and she's willing to, like, if it gets her back to Osha, she can leave all that behind.
And is that because, do you think they're one soul, two bodies?
Probably, yes. It is, of course, interesting that they have been able to be apart for such a long time. And it's interesting to think what they could do if they were together, how strong they would be if they are united. Because, yes, they feel like one is the more emotional and one is the more grounded, analytical. And yes, if they had been turned so May had become a Jedi and Osha ended up with a Sith, I'm pretty sure that they would both have remained within those traditions. Now they are both, well, we don't know what's going on with Osha, really.
No.
Now that she has been taken by a Sith, and it seems like she quite enjoys some of what he's saying.
Well, I think
can lure her
I
in.
think it's interesting that she left the Jedi, this rebellious thing, illegal fixing of ships, etc. So she's clearly got a barometer in her that's a tricky one.
Yes. And she's an outcast. I mean, she is by herself. She's looking for some kind of connection on where she belongs.
But that was really because she didn't know that her sister was still alive?
No.
So I think that dynamic will change again. And
this is why I think not everything will be solved in one last episode, unlike it's a 2-hour episode, but we need more. We need to know more about the Sith, what's going on. In a way, I'm really hoping for a bit of a cliffhanger that it will end with Osha taking on a red lightsaber. Yes, I'm thinking that's where we will end it, because that's also a good way to end it. If they aren't going to make another season, it can end with, okay, so Osha turned a Sith. If they're making another season, well, then you will have this interesting dynamic. Well, May also wielded a red lightsaber and then she didn't. So are they really good or evil? But I think that is where we are heading.
Yeah, I think you could be right.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video and social media feeds, bookmark fanthatracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
I'm enjoying it. It's a very different type of Star Wars, but it's not what I thought in my head about.
It is a bit more complicated than just a cool action series.
There's more to it, and I like that. A bit like Ahsoka. It surprised me, and Obi-Wan. It's different to what I thought it was going to be.
It was so much branded as like, we're going to see the other side. We're going to see the evil side. It's more interesting to explore the evil. And now it's like, yeah, but who is good and evil in this universe and in
but
this
again,
setting?
there is where the dynamics are, isn't it? What is good, what is evil? And it's looking at the different perspective of it. I mean, if we take a look at, for example, Master Saul, who I think is a great character, very complicated, clearly a very dedicated Jedi. Reminds me a bit of Qui-Gon Jinn, Jedi through and through, but is prepared to bend the rules.
Why is he so bent on getting Osha as a Padawan? That's not very Jedi-like. That's more like personal fulfillment for me. He needs a Padawan. He has taken this girl in, and now he wants to be her master and her father figure.
And that's not really what it's about, is it?
No.
I saw the actor in Squid Game, which obviously is Korean and it's, it's subtitled. So, and I remember him having had to have translators, etc. But for somebody who doesn't have a great command of English, certainly knows how to put the nuances in. That's great skill from him and great teaching from whoever it is on set. You wouldn't know that English wasn't one of his
No, definitely not. And that's another thing. When we were in London, he always had an interpreter with him on stage.
Always.
Because he couldn't keep conversation going in English.
I was sad to see Jord and Jackie go.
Yeah, Jackie was wonderful. I will say I had so much fun with the names. Sol means sun in Swedish, and Jord means earth. So I was like are they going for, can't they like give them all Scandinavian names for the elements, but they didn't go. So we only got the sun and the earth.
It's so clever, isn't it? I mean, they think of everything, don't they?
Jackie is she was the perfect Jedi. She was the one who like trained everything that you wanted a Jedi to be: calm, collected, always totally 100% on the good side.
Empathetic in a way, as much as Jedi are.
Yeah. So no, I'm hoping that we can get some prequel stories about Jackie. The Padawan years of Jackie, Jord, and Osho are definitely something I would like to see, because they have apparently been up to things together.
Yeah. So not afraid to kill anybody off, are they?
No.
But I think that's because now they know they've got a get out cause, don't they?
Yeah.
You can be stuck together with a pair of metal legs, Darth Maul. Some point you will come back in some form or another.
And of course, that is also something I would have loved to see more about, the reactions on the clan. Now we get, like, from the Coruscant perspective, we only get Master Venestra and her.
Yes.
Really, because I mean, it must have been such a shock for the Jedi that so many of their own are killed in what was supposed to just be a fairly simple mission.
I think there was a hidden agenda there. I know they were going to see about the presence or, the ambience of the Force within it. But I think somebody somewhere knew there was a bigger deal to be had. Venestra, who's the Green Jedi.
Who's also been present in the High Republic as a younger Padawan and Knight, and now she's a master.
Right, okay. So that's where that link is.
She's a tie-in with the High Republic.
So people then of the High Republic will be delighted to see her there. Is she a true reflection of what she's like in the books?
I can't answer that because I haven't read enough of the High Republic, but I know that she's in it. This is a way of tying that in.
Yeah.
I can't say if she's close to it, but it is cool that they are bringing in a literary character and bringing her on the screen.
Very well acted, very confident. I know that she's been in Westworld, which is a really great series that I've really enjoyed.
Hard to recognize when she's not green.
Oh, well, that's the problem, as again, I almost called her the Wicked Jedi after the musical Wicked, the Green Witch, so to speak. But she could be evil. We don't know again. But at the minute, Venestra seems to be somebody who's quite sensible. What about our Wookiee in the corner? What do you think of him?
Well, I'm not too impressed by him, simply because it feels like, we need to have a Wookiee in it. Let's do and the Wookiee is all stuck with doing the mechanics and eating wildlife. It feels like, couldn't they put some more nuance and characterization of him? Like, what do we see Chewie doing? He's a mechanic and he eats wildlife, and basically that's what we get from all the Wookiees.
And don't get angry. They still use that whole phrase, don't they? Don't get angry.
Give us some more characterization of the Wookiees. There must be some. They're an intelligent species. There must be something more to
And they
them.
live for a very long time. So they must have backstories to it. But again, I think it's a nice nod that you can say Jonas's name better.
Jonas Watamo. Yeah.
That's the one. It's nice to see some of the trilogy actors being included in this.
But if we're talking about green and things in the corner, I mean, there is one thing that I'm actually, in a way, I would be really hoping if we get to that cameo of some brief glimpse of it in the last episode, Yoda should be around in the Coruscant.
So somebody else said that. One of my friends said that to me. He says, have you seen Yoda yet in it? Because he should be there.
He should be there. And that is why I'm hoping that we will get something from the Jedi Council and that Yoda is there. I mean, I totally understand that he doesn't have to be like a main character, but that should be such a great thing to see.
But he probably
Yoda.
Shouldn't be a main character.
But he should be around.
I wonder.
And Yaddle. Don't forget Yaddle.
Oh, yes, and Yaddle.
Just somehow, like, if it's Venestra giving a report to the council and you see Yoda is there.
So can we touch on Indara?
Yeah.
Carrie-Anne Moss. Do we think that the style of fighting of the Jedi, which I alluded to earlier, is because she's in it and she's the Matrix?
Definitely. Yeah. But it was interesting is to see her like not using her weapons and things. And as I said, I'm thinking we hear so much about that the Jedi don't draw their weapons against an unarmed person. This is probably the episode that will make them change.
Yeah.
Because it will start being more under threat. And yes, they will start getting more embroiled in politics than they have been before.
Yeah.
I'm also thinking this is probably somewhere some Jedi will put their hands in the sand and say, no, Sith are extinct. They don't exist anymore. So that we will have some kind of build up until the prequel era where you get like, those reports about the Sith apparently, they were true. And of course, that is also why you have Yoda as a bridge. Yeah. He's aware of what's going on in this era. It's not strange for him then to go there's a Sith in the Phantom Menace. Because it's not such a long time ago for him that they were actually active.
So it's sort of quite recent in the memory.
Hi, this is David W. Collins, voice actor for Star Wars and sound designer at Skywalker Sound. You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
Final thoughts then on Acolyte.
I like it. It's not one that I've been able to like come Wednesday morning. It's not one of the series where I feel like I have to put it on straight away. I've had no problem waiting a couple of days, but it is also because it is a bit uncomfortable with all these questions about good and evil motivation. Yeah. So it's not just a cool Jedi series. There is something more. And I'm really hoping that we will get a second season because I have a hard time thinking that everything will be resolved in the final episode.
Yeah, for me, a really enjoyable series, just like Obi-Wan and Ahsoka, something I didn't know I needed until I watched it.
I definitely putting this one way ahead of Ahsoka.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think it's because it's original. There are absolutely no expectations on any character in there. Whereas Ahsoka, if you watched the Clone Wars, you very much have an opinion about how Ahsoka should be, don't you?
Yeah.
Because these characters are new and I'm not fully attached or committed to any of them yet.
No.
Apart from Smilo Ren.
Well, I like Jackie and she's gone.
Exactly. So I'm not massively invested character-wise, but as a series-wise, I really like it. I really would love it, as you said, to take on a second series. I don't think there's too much to be resolved. And I think you're right. I think there has to be another series going on.
And I'm hoping it goes well enough that Disney and Lucas can realize that there is an interest and market for not everything has to be tie-in to the films. Series that makes our understanding of the galaxy better and more, they also have a place.
Thoroughly enjoying it. It gets a good solid 8 out of 10 for me. As I said to you, what I really like about it the most, the same as what you said at the very start of this, I can watch it and nobody's spoiling it.
No.
But again, I don't know whether that's because my algorithms have changed or whatever on my social media, but there's nothing popping up really about it at all. Just the chat that I have with a couple of my friends, Star Wars friends who are at home or Fantha Track team. I haven't really heard anything more about it, which I really enjoy. So go on then, are you going to grade it?
If I'm grading it, I would probably say a 7. I like it. If I'm rating it compared to other Star Wars series, I probably like this one a lot more than the series around the sequel eras. First season of Mandalorian was still better, but probably higher than everything else from them. I mean, in some of these series, I have gone up in the morning, so I've been able to watch the episode before I go to work. I don't have that need or urge to really see it. It hasn't given me that strong interest in it, but it is a good series, and it's a well series, and it's an interesting series.
Yeah. I mean, I've given it an 8 out of 10, which is pretty high. I don't feel the need I have to go and watch it.
No.
And I am enjoying it more than The Mandalorian. I'm enjoying it more than Ahsoka, not as much as Obi-Wan.
I would probably put it somewhere around Obi-Wan Kenobi, because Kenobi is complicated, because I'm not sure that I thought that the series itself was so good. The characters, I mean, young Leia and Kenobi were so good that they made me happy.
That's what I'm sort of coming off the bat of. I agree. Well, it's been a pretty quiet Star Wars couple of months.
The Acolyte should have been more, but I'm guessing that they didn't dare beat the big drum. Well, you did have some premieres all around the world. I know people from the 501st and Rebel Legions were invited to this, so you did have some big screen premieres, but I don't think that they dared to really bring on the big drum. And I'm also thinking that we are really missing the fact that due to the strike that Andor is postponed. We should now have been in the gear up for the second season of Andor, and
that's not going to happen anytime soon, unfortunately.
No. It feels like we are in a bit of a lull, and it's probably because Andor was supposed to come here and they don't have anything else to fill it with.
Thanks for listening to Planet Leia. If you want to be part of the action and stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news, visit panthertracks.com and be sure to comment, like, share on any of our social media feeds at Panthertracks. You can reach out to us and send in your questions or comments by emailing radio@panthertracks.com. You can subscribe and leave a review, preferably a 5-star one, on Amazon Music, Audible, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or any other podcatcher of your choice. And as always, thanks to James Semple for composing the Panther Tracks intro and our Princess Leia opening music, and for Mark Daniels and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers. Remember to keep tuning in to anything that's going on Panther Tracks, including Good Morning Tatooine, our Panther Tracks Radio Friday night rotation at 7 o'clock UK time for new episodes of The Panther Down Under, Planet Leia, Desert Planet Discs, Start Your Engines, Collector's Tracks, Cannon Fodder, and special episodes of Making Tracks. And then always try to listen if you can every Tuesday at 7 p.m. UK time for your weekly episode of Making Tracks.
I also want to say thank you for listening. Join us next time.
Coming up next on Panther Tracks Radio, it's Making Tracks.